Hi guys, it's Melody. It's been a while since I've done a video. I've had a lot going on. My husband had gallbladder surgery. I've been having some other health issues. My mother-in-law had cataract surgery, so I had to go help her. So it's been a busy month. Although looking at my YouTube channel, it seems like I post like once a month. So maybe I'm not that far off. And I'm looking a little sad today because it's supposed to get a really big storm and the wind is really blowing. I also moved hobby room, so yay! It might sound a little echoey in here. It's because I don't have a lot up here right now as far as, carpets and stuff. Anyway, what this video is about, I saw this, I don't know what you'd call it, challenge or whatever on Instagram about 30 days I don't know. It's a list of 30 things to do about your chronic illness and stuff. And I thought I might start doing some of those in video form. So I thought it'd be fun. The first one is to tell your story about how you found out that you had it and your backstory. And I don't know that I've ever done that. I know my first video talks about IIH and that I have it and how it affects me, but not about how I got diagnosed. So to go back when I was a child, I had headaches, but it wasn't anything, major or anything like that. I lived in North Carolina. I was born and raised there until I was 13. When I turned 13, my family decided to move to Wyoming. And we started doing missionary work with the churches in the West. That entailed doing a lot of mountain driving. And whenever we would go to Montana, especially I remember Glacier Park, when we'd go to those high elevations or ride in the mountains, I would literally have to lay on the floorboard because I would get so sick. Just nauseous and headaches and all this other stuff. And we just kind of attributed it to elevation sickness. And, I'm from back east and in the south and the girl's not used to it and blah, blah, blah. So we just kind of wrote it off as that. Fast forward to when I turned 18, I graduated high school, got married, straight out of high school, my first husband. And I was having headaches and stuff then, but my husband at the time didn't see them as serious or anything, so we just kind of wrote it off as, normal stuff. I remember sitting in church one day with my husband and my right arm went completely numb and I couldn't move it. And I remember, punching my husband and saying, or not punching, but, nudging my husband and saying, I can't move my arm. And he's like, oh, it just probably went to sleep. You'll be fine. And I couldn't move my arm for a good, 2-3 minutes. And it started to freak me out a little bit, but it eventually came back. My vision was always in and out, but I have a bad left eye. So I just attributed it to, it's working hard and it's just tired. So we'll just, it's just normal for me. Fast forward to, it's in my 30s. Actually in my mid 20s, me and my husband got divorced. And, life was just so hectic being a mom and fighting for my kids and trying to live on my own and all this other stuff that my health kind of went under the radar and I just kind of pushed everything aside and did what I had to do. But then I met my husband, my current husband, and he noticed the headaches and was a little concerned about it. And so we went to the doctor, and of course they treated me for migraines and was trying all kinds of medications and stuff that wasn't working. And, they just said that was my body. It's just migraines. Don't worry about it. About probably 6 or 7 years ago, I had the worst headache of my life. Actually, back up a little bit. When my husband and I first got married, I started having, and even I remember having this in my teens, my forehead would get puffy and swollen. And the doctors, I remember one doctor telling me, it's not puffy, that's impossible. And I'm looking at him and I'm like doing this and you're seeing my finger dent in my head. Looking back at it now, I honestly believe that I had a spinal fluid leak and it was leaking here into my forehead, because it would eventually go away, and it would be when I have like one of the worst headaches, and it would always be after I had gone like to high elevations. Looking back at it now, I swear that's what it was. But anyway, about 6 or 7 years ago, I had one of the worst headaches that I've ever had. I had a stiff neck and a little bit of a fever, and I went to the ER, and they did a CT scan, and they said, you have empty sella, which means that my, I want to say thyroid. It's not the thyroid. It's the pituitary gland in your brain had been like smushed up into the cavity. And so, you know, they were like, oh, that's nothing to worry about. But they were concerned that maybe I had meningitis. And so they put me in the hospital for a few days and decided to do a spinal tap. So when they did the spinal tap, I'll never forget, the doctor took the spinal tap and looked at the pressure and was like, oh, well, that's no wonder. Your pressure's high. And I remember when he took some of the fluid off. Now, I was diagnosed with the pressure of 28, I believe. So it's on the lower scale. But I have had, after I was diagnosed, like in the 30s and 40s and stuff. But the doctor's like, you have pseudotumor cerebri. I'm like, what? And he's like, it's where your body makes too much spinal fluid, or your body doesn't absorb it like it should. He said, that's why you're having all the headaches. He said, we're going to send you to a neurologist and, you know, go from there. I have had people ask me, how did you feel when you got the news that you have a chronic illness that is not curable? I felt relieved and happy. And I know that sounds stupid unless you've been there. When you've been going years and years and years having symptoms and having problems and nobody knows the answers, when somebody gives you a name, even if it's not curable, you're like, okay, at least me, I have a name. Now that I know what it is, I can deal with it. I can deal with it because I know what it is. And people are like flabbergasted when I say that, you know, I was relieved. I was happy. I had a name. You know, I felt validated because I had a name for what was going on. And it wasn't just all, you know, a mental thing, you know, or in my head. My husband and I joke when they say, you know, it's all in your head. And I'm like, yeah, no duh, it's all in my head. It's not pretend, it's not mental, but yeah, it's all in my head. But anyway, we went to the neurologist, and of course they tried me on Diamox and Imitrex and Topiramate, and nothing worked. And I had such severe reactions to, like, the Topamax. My dog's back there scratching. My depression got really, really bad on Topamax, so I had to quit taking that. Diamox didn't work, and the side effects for me versus how it helped me was too much. And my neurologist was like, you know, they put me on Lasix, and it wasn't helping, and you know, the doctor's like, well, this is all we have to do. And I remember the way I got my shunt is I went in and I just had enough. And I was like, look, my quality of life sucks right now. And something has got to give because this is ridiculous. You know, my sight is going, I have no life. I'm in bed all the time. I'm having a hard time working. Something's got to give. And so he's like, okay, well, what we can do is a shunt. And he referred me to my neurosurgeon. And I have an LP shunt, and it's where it runs from my back into my abdominal cavity. So it doesn't go in my brain. He couldn't do it into my brain because my ventricles were too small to do that. So I have an LP shunt. But anyway, that's how I was diagnosed, and that's how I found out and had a name for the problem that was wrong with me. And I'm very grateful to have a name for it now, even though I still suffer with it and I still have issues and I still have problems. I have a name. I know what I'm fighting. And so that's a plus. That's how I found out, and that's been my journey. I know it's short and kind of condensed, but if you have any questions, just leave them down in the comments below. And I am going to get back to hobbying to take my mind off the pain today, because we have a storm rolling in and it's just, my left eye is all kinds of fuzzy. But yeah, I hope you have a pain-free or at least pain-tolerable day, and I will see you in the next video.